Guys, here we go. We're doing some factoring review. This is what we did on Friday, but I want to make sure that you guys see it again because we're just going to be reviewing for this time that we have off. On the left, we have our trinomial method. That's our diamond method. You know you're doing this because it has three pieces, right? The x squared, the 9x, the 14. Trinomial, right? But the way we do this, right? We look at two numbers. They multiply to that last term, which is 14, and they add to that middle term, which is 9. So that's how we set up our diamond. What two numbers multiply to 14 add to 9? That would be positive 7, positive 2, right? X. Then we can go to our factored form of x plus 7, x plus 2. And we're done right there. If you notice that 7 and 2 are the two numbers that we exactly used for our diamond method, right? 7 plus 2 is 9. 7 times 2 is 14. That is your factored form, right? Looking at that second example right there, now we're looking for two numbers. In this case, they multiply to negative 15. They add to positive 2. Two numbers that multiply to 15 add to 2. That would have to be 5 and 3. It's just in this case, we need them to multiply to negative 15. So either the 5 has to be negative, the 3 has to be negative. In our case right here, it's the 3, right? Because 5 minus 3 gives you positive 2, right? So now we can again jump to our factored form of x plus 5, x minus 3. That would be your factored form. And looking at it, right, 5 minus 3 is positive 2. 5 times negative 3 is a negative 15. So that is exactly what we need. That's your factored form. The second type of factoring that we have is our difference of squares, right? We know we're doing difference of squares because it has two terms, right? 1, 2. Now the other thing that we know for difference of squares is we only can use this if we know the square root, right? So you look at it, x squared minus 9. Also, we have to keep in mind that difference means it has to be subtraction. But we look at it, x squared minus 9. Do we know the square root of x squared? And do we know the square root of 9? If we do, then we can do this. We know that the square root of 9 is 3. We know that the square root of x squared is actually x, meaning we can jump to our factored form. It's going to be x plus 3, x minus 3 from those two numbers that we knew the square root of. And that right there is your factored form. Now you look at the one below it, the second example, 4x squared minus 81. Do we know the square root of both of those? And we do, right? We know that the square root of 4 is 2. We know that the square root of 81 is 9, which then means, again, we can jump to our factored form. In this case, it's 2x plus 9, 2x minus 9. Again, that's from our difference of squares. We can do that when we know the square root of those numbers and when it's a binomial. It has two terms. The last type of factoring that we have and that we're going to go over today is our greatest common factor, which we also call the GCF, right? This is usually what we always start with, right? Always start with the greatest common factor. You look, and specifically at example 1, you look and you say, is there anything that all three of these have in common? And hopefully something goes off in your head and it's like, yes, they have a 3 that we can take out of all of them, right? 3 goes into 3, goes into 6, and it goes into 9. So we can take a 3 out of all of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide them all by 3. But on top of that, you look at it, what else do these all have in common? And the second thing that they all have in common is all of them have an x, right? 3x cubed, 6x squared, 9x. They all have an x. And the most we can take out of all three of these is 1x, right? So we're going to divide these all by 3x. Now that 3x that we're dividing by, it doesn't disappear. It sits out in front of our factored form. and we're going to write what's left over, or after we divide. So we go 3 divided by 3 is 1. X cubed divided by x is x squared. 6 divided by 3 is 2. X squared divided by x is x. And then 9 divided by 3 is 3. X divided by x, the x's go away, there's none left. That would be your factored form. Now we usually don't write that 1 right there, so we could rewrite it as 3x, x squared plus 2x plus 3. When you get here, you're not done. You want to check that second piece right there, x squared plus 2x plus 3. That's a trinomial, right? Just like what we have right here. We want to see, are there two numbers that multiply to 3 and also add to 2? Are there no, because 3 times 1 is the only pair that we have. 3 and 1 do not add to 2, so we cannot use the diamond method here. That right there would be your final answer, but always check to see if you can go any further. That's all of the review that we have on factoring. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me on email and we can talk there.